What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Welcome back. HKB Podcast live once again. We've been on a couple week break, and as I've been traveling around and fishing my butt off, but we are back. I'm excited for tonight's show. We're starting a 3-part series, something I've been wanting to do for a while, talking to some individuals that I've been wanting to chat with for a while now. Starting tonight with our Young Guns series, part 1. Tonight's guest will be Nick Matthews. He'll be on here in just a little bit. You guys know how this works. Let me know you can hear me all right, see me all right. Like, comment, and share. Help us get the word out about this awesome community, these awesome anglers, and of course, these great series we have here in the state of Indiana. Let us know where you're watching from. And buckle up. It's going to be a good show. Did you guys see that shelf cloud came in? If you're watching from Indiana, pretty awesome shelf cloud developed, surprisingly, because it was a really weak little storm, but pretty cool. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. Me and the kiddos and the wife went out and took a look at that about an hour ago now, maybe. So speaking of kiddos, they're kind of fighting sleep tonight. So if you hear them in the background, I apologize. Normally they're in bed by now, but the younger boys not so into sleep tonight. So anyway, I appreciate you guys being on here. And like I said, give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can hear me and see me all right. And we'll get tonight started. It's going to be jam-packed. We got a lot to go over. And then, of course, again, tonight's guest, Nick Matthews, the young hammer from Fishers, Indiana. Fishers area, anyway, I believe. All right. I see those thumbs up. I appreciate that. The old man is here, Mr. Matt Kiefer. What's going on, old man? How you doing? Well, let's talk about what's been going on in the state. We'll talk about what's going on right now and what's coming up before we get into tonight's main show. So, jam-packed week last week. Lots of stuff going on. Indiana Kayak Anglers kicking off their second event of the season at Lake Wawasee. I was fortunate enough to make it up to this event. Beautiful area, beautiful lake, different than anything I've ever fished before. It was super gin clear. From what I'm told, it's the largest natural lake in Indiana. Fishing was a little tough for me because it was so out of my element, but I was able to figure some stuff out in practice. And on tournament day, didn't do as great as these folks did, though. Your top 10 from Wawasee. See if I can get this a little bigger here for you. Anthony Brown coming in 10th place with a 5-fish limit of 63.75. Michael Matthews, the father of tonight's guest, was 66 inches, tying his son, Nick Matthews, but Nick had 1 fish bigger with his whopping 15-incher. Nick coming in 8th place. 7th place was Cole with 66.25. Mr. Gray was 66.75 in 6th place. Jack Vandenberg, another young gun, hopefully we'll be talking to here soon, 67.25. His buddy Brendan McDougall was 68.25 in 4th place. Brendan fought hard that whole tournament. He found out something late in the day, and a little bit more time, I think he would have been right up there. Jim Orr coming in 3rd with 71.25, chasing down his son Jackson Orr. No surprise. Look at our top 2. Jackson Orr was 72.25, leading the tournament up until the final moments when none other than Aiden Darlington came in with an upgrade and ended up with 73.25. 73.25 for Aiden Darlington. My goodness, this guy just continues to own this series. Winning tournament after tournament, placing in top finishes. running AOY. Just absolutely unreal what this kid is doing. And we're going to be talking to Aiden next week. He's getting ready to finish up college, and we're going to figure out what his plans are for fishing and all that. But my goodness, what an event that was. Really fun. A lot of fish caught. Only 10 limits. It was a short tournament. We were done by 11:30, and the bite really started to heat up in the last hour. But due to high winds, we had to call that event a little bit early. Good call. I know it was a tough call for the moving water, for Indiana kayak anglers, admins. Yeah, great event there. Also, last week we had an Iona first series event for them for the grubby season. And top 10 there, we had Brian coming in with 66.75, the voice of Grubby Talk there. George Nemeth, the tournament director for this series, was 71.25. I know for sure, last year's AOY for this series. Bob Goldsmith came with 72.75. Kevin was 73.5. Matt Gibson, 74.75. Michael Matthews coming in with 75.75. Chip was 76.50. He's having a good run in a couple events, top fives. Dave Sewell, another top angler from this series last year, was 76.50. Myself was 77.75. Led from Thursday up until I believe it was Sunday when Nick Matthews, tonight's guest, fished and landed 78.75. Nudging me out of the victory, but I was able to get big bass in that event. So we'll talk to Nick more about that event here in a moment. Last week, we also had Brookville wrap up their second event of the season. And your top 10 in that one with Brendan with one fish. So it looks like this is still fishing pretty tough out there. David also with one fish. Eric had a couple for 36.75. Austin Killian, 44.5. Matt with 50.5. Randall with 53.25. Paul Worley with 69.25. Dakota Stansberry, 71 inches. Pretty good limit right there. Tyler Atwell, 73 inches. This name's popping up a lot lately. Somebody to watch out for. Might have a hot hand. We're going to hear his name more than once today. Tyler Atwell, 73 inches, and taking home the victory with 77 inches, Jason Merritt. Tyler had a limit of smallmouth, the only limit of smallmouth so far from Brookville. So that was pretty cool to see. And then also last week, we wrapped up the month, which means we wrapped up both the KBF month-long and the SIAC month-long. Top three in both those events were the same. Matt Kiefer taking top honors there, just barely nudging out Brian Sparks in the last couple days there with a good upgrade. So they tied at 101.50, but Matt did have the big bass tiebreaker right there with a 20.75. This was not the big bass of the event, though, nor was the 21.25 that I had or Troy. The big bass of the event came from 10th place angler Tyler Atwell. Once again, we're hearing that name, with a 22-inch stud from Lake Monroe. Coming in on the last day, final hours. Huge bass from Lake Monroe. That was awesome to see right there. So, again, top three for KBF month-long and the SIAC month-long were the same. Matt, Brian, and myself rounding out the top three. So great event there. Fallen Outdoors, they donated hundreds of dollars to Fallen Outdoors, and that was great to see. So again, recap, we had Tyler's 22-inch fish was the big fish of the week. And then our top performers were Jason Merritt at Brookville with 77 inches, Nick Matthews at Iona with 78.75, and that was our big bag of the week. Aiden Darlington up there on Lake Wawasee for IKA with 73.25, and Matt Kiefer taking home both the KBF month-long and SIAC month-long. I made a little bit of a boo-boo there in the graphic. Yeah, awesome week. This week, we got a couple different events going on here in the state of Indiana, 3 actually. Summit Lake, Grubby, and for Grubby Sullivan, and Grubby Brush Creek. Today was the first day for all of those events. Tyler Atwell leading Summit Lake, nudging me out in the final moments to take the lead today with 76.5 inches. He had 7 upgrades on the day. Look at that, 7 upgrades. Was awesome. I had 2 upgrades on the day. I caught a lot of fish in the 13-inch range. And Michael Matthews also with a limit, 66.75 in third, and Chad Smith with 59 inches, also in a limit today. And Wes Ward with 44.5. So a lot of time left to go on this one. 28 anglers signed up for it. It's going to be a shootout. I'm sure the fish are definitely biting. Size was just hard to come by. 2 anglers fishing at Summit today to kick that event off. 17 fish caught in total. 5 upgrades from Joseph Woolwich. Joe, last year's AOY out there. No surprise. He put up a good limit today with 72 3/4 inches. And Tyler Monroe right behind him with 71 1/4. There are 19 anglers signed up for this one. A bunch of guys fishing tomorrow, 10 guys fishing tomorrow. Last event out there was Justin Staley. He'll be fishing tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. He put up a huge limit last time. And then finally, we had Brush Creek also kicking off this week. Ryan Reedy out there with 2 fish today, an 18.75 and a 12 1/4 for 31 inches. This lake is fishing really, really tough. I know they had a big issue last year where the lake got drawn down to almost nothing, and I'm sure that's had a major effect on it. But not a lot of fish being caught in this series so far. 15 anglers signed up for this one. So still a lot of fishing to be had. It'll be interesting to see what happens in that event. Coming up for the rest of May, we've got Grubby Monroe series next week, kicking off on Thursday, and the White River as well. Make sure to get signed up for those. In conjunction with that Monroe event, you got the Grubby Trail series on Monroe. So this is a doubleheader. Sign up for both. This should be a really good event, guys. This weather right now that we're having is going to slow down what was happening. They were moving up. They were getting ready to do their thing. This weather should be slowing it down a little bit, and this rain is going to make the water go up. So if you guys aren't familiar with Monroe, full pool is 538 out there. It has been dropping like crazy since about mid part of last month. And that's made the fishing tough because those bass don't feel secure enough to move up and kind of do their thing. So they've been kind of sitting and waiting. And now that water's going up with the rain. So fishing should be really, really good. Everything's a little bit delayed this year. It seems like throughout the country, really, with the spawn. So the next 2 events at Monroe, I think, are going to be phenomenal events. So make sure to get in those. Lots up for grabs with that being a doubleheader. And then, of course, you also have the following week, May 20th through the 24th. You've got Grubby on Bluegrass and Raccoon. And then another doubleheader on May 22nd, IKA and SIAC on Summit Lake. That's going to be a fun event. A lot of fish are going to be caught in that one. And with it being a doubleheader, plenty of opportunity to cash some big checks. Rounding out the end of the month, we got Brookville and Niona, May 27th through the 31st. And then don't forget, guys, you can still sign up for the Cash Hicks charity event that's ran through Grubby. So go to Tourney X, go to Grubby, and then you can find that Cash Hicks charity event. You can sign up for that anytime. There is no deadline on it. Ends at the end of the month. All proceeds go to help out Cash Hicks and his family as he fights and battles cancer for the second time. Prayers to him and the family on that. But get signed up for that event. Great prizes going out to the winners and some random draws as well. So it's going to be really fun. And some great fish being put up already. That's a national event, so make sure to share that with your friends and family. Justin says he's working on getting rigged for tomorrow. He's getting ready to go out on Old Sullivan. I'll be there Saturday. I'm going to give it another go. Missed the last one, so I'm excited to get back out there. And that is it, guys. That is it. That's what's been going on. That's what's going on now. And that's what's getting ready to go on here in the state of Indiana. And so without further ado, we're going to get into the main piece of tonight's episode, which is our guest, Nick Matthews, one of the young guns here in the state of Indiana. He's been performing at the top for a while now. And I'm excited to talk to him, learn a little bit more about his story, and then really get into how he is so consistent, not only locally, but nationally. I don't know if you guys have seen, he's put up some great numbers in the Hobie Bass Open Series. He was at the top of the AOY rankings. He hasn't been able to make the last couple of events due to work, but I'm sure he'll get in a couple more and be right back up there towards the top. So let's go ahead, without further ado, let's talk to Mr. Nick Matthews. What's going on, dude?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Allergies are driving me nuts, but outside of that, we're good.
Yeah.
So, man, you've been on a tear this season. I mean, really, for a while now. You've been very consistent, placing at the top, cashing checks, and you are part of the young gun crew that I've kind of dubbed here in the state as well as others. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Tell us, how old are you? Let's start there.
I'm 21.
21. Just recently, right?
No, I turn 22 next month.
22 next month. Okay. So 22. When did you get into kayak fishing?
I think I fished the first IKA event in 2015 or 2016 on Patoka when there was only 10 people, 12 people. So
Okay.
I've been kayak fishing for a while. I kind of just got into it with my buddy, and we just started going from there. So
2015. How old were you in 2015?
I didn't even have my driver's license then when
Yeah.
we started doing tournaments. So we
That's
actually had
crazy.
to have one of our parents drive us to every tournament.
So have you grown up fishing and bass fishing, or did you just get into it around that time?
Yeah, I live in a neighborhood, so we always had ponds we had a bunch of ponds in our neighborhood, and we also kind of didn't live on a golf course, but we lived near a golf course, and we always fished the golf course ponds. So, and then Aiden Darlington was actually my neighbor. He's been my neighbor for a long, long time. So we kind of met in second grade, so we've been friends ever since then. And we always, instead of doing sports or playing video games, we just always went fishing. So
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So you've been fishing with IK since 2015, and when did you start feeling like you had it all kind of figured out and you were ready to compete at a higher level and start getting into some of the larger tournaments?
I think about 2019 is when I just started feeling more confident. I didn't have that confidence back then that I used to. I think 2019 is when I started putting it all together. I got a second place with IKA AOY, a runner up to Aiden, and it's kind of snowballed from there, is where I feel like I've gained my confidence enough that in baits, just to know that I can go out there and catch them.
Yeah. Great question just came in right here from Justin. Guys, I encourage you, if you have any questions for Nick throughout the show, please pop them up. What are you fishing out of, Nick?
I have the Hobie PA14 360.
360. Okay. All right. And your your 360 or your last kayak, is that what your dad's in now?
I've had So I'm on the Hobie fishing team, so I've had two other PAs before that. That's
Okay.
actually the kayak that my dad's in is the one that I bought myself from Sun Valley in 2017. That's when I bought my
Okay.
first Hobie in 2017.
Nice. So you're on the Hobie fishing team. How long have you been on their team?
Uh, since 2018, so
2018.
3 years.
Okay. Okay. So you've had a couple top finishes this year in Hobie BOS Bass Open Series.
Yeah,
Um,
I've had two fifths.
two fifth place finishes. That's excellent, man. That's awesome. So let's talk about what's your fishing style. Let's start there.
So my fishing style is in the ponds that I grew up fishing, it was very grass. It had a lot of algae, so I'm very soft plastic, slow as possible. I'm not moving fast at all. I do not like to throw really crankbaits, chatterbaits as much. I'll throw them, but I don't like hard baits are not really what I like to throw. I'm just
Okay.
a really soft plastics type person. My favorite thing is a Texas rig Senko or any really thing Texas rigged. So that's my
Are
favorite
we
bait to
talking
throw.
like weightless Cinco, just kind of dragging it?
Uh, all of the above. I try to switch it up. So I like weightless on spring in the spring for Niona. I used weightless. It's a fluke. I like weightless. So it
Yeah.
just I've always just been slow. I like dragging slow. I don't like going fast at all. I like picking apart everything.
Okay. Okay. Now, do you ever feel like that is a disadvantage?
Yes, that's where I kind of gained a little bit this year. Why I've become a little bit more consistent because I don't kind of get stuck in my a couple years back I always got stuck in always trying to go slow. I'll throw those hard baits or a chatter bait if I know I need to. If I know I need to go and change it up and it's not working, I won't be hard-headed and try to stick with it anymore. I know I need to change. So,
But you always kind of start there and then kind of work your way
yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yep, I always try to start there. I always try to start almost offshore. I don't try starting on the bank. I always try starting offshore because usually if you find them offshore, they're not going to be hit by anybody else. You have the fish to yourself. That's my whole game plan usually is if I can find them offshore, I have to fish to myself. So
Yeah. Do you find that you get better quality as well offshore?
it depends on the area and uh,
Mhm.
in the time of year. The later in the spring, the less quality usually. They're usually moving up, so I'll have to go shallow. But the earlier in the spring is when I always get the better quality out deeper.
Yeah. Now, offshore can sometimes mean different things to different people. I consider myself to be an offshore fisherman, kind of like you. Sometimes I have to force myself to, like you have to force yourself to throw hard baits. I have to force myself to go shallow. I really don't like to, but especially like this time of year, it can sometimes obviously be better. When you say offshore, what how do you define that?
I always kind of do like 6 feet and deeper.
Okay.
Is as long as I'm not fishing right up on the bank is. I mean, I call bluff walls fishing the bank, but it's still deep, but you're still really close. As long as you're off the bank a good like 20 feet, I call that offshore.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Very good. Yeah, I'm a similar definition there, fishing those long points and those humps and the breaks and that sort of stuff. And you're not target casting at laydowns and bushes and docks and that sort of stuff. So you like throwing a Cinco. What are some other techniques that you're pretty fond of?
the Senko, the Ned rig has become what I like throwing a lot lately. This I have been throwing the soft plastic swim bait a lot more. Really, the Kitech 2.8 and the Mega Bass Dark Sleeper is what I like throwing lately too.
Yeah.
The swim bait seems to work instead of it makes me feel better that I'm not throwing a crankbait. So
Sure.
I'll just throw the swim bait.
What are you throwing that 2.8 Kitech on?
Dirty Jigs. I think it's like a 3/16 jig head.
Okay. And so did you throw the Dark Sleeper up at Lake Wawasee at all?
I did not. I threw jerk bait. I threw a Mega Bass jerk bait.
Okay. Did you get?
So I had a really good practice up there, and I just couldn't figure it out day two on the tournament. But
yeah, my practice was a little tough. I was completely spun out by how clear it was. I've been up to Lake St. Clair, and that's pretty clear, but and strip pits and stuff at home, but I'd never been able to look at 20 foot down and see a rock. That was wild, and seeing the bait and stuff and seeing the fish. And I practice on not Lake Wawasee, but what is the other one? Syracuse,
yeah.
And I got a bunch of bites in a little bit that I practiced. The wind was crazy, and I decided just to fish Wawasee. And right away, first thing in the morning, I got bit. I caught one on a tube, and then I started throwing the Dark Sleeper. And I had 2 come off on it. I've never lost a fish on a Dark Sleeper before. Usually they just choke it.
Usually they do, yeah.
Yeah, and I had 2 jump off on the Dark Sleeper, and then I broke a fish off. I don't know if it was a bass that I broke off. Probably not, because I'm sure there was pike or something in that general vicinity too. But I think one of them was a smallmouth. I was so pumped, and then I never got another bite there. And then I didn't figure it out until the last 30 minutes. But that was a fun event. So I was just curious. Jason Young has a question for you. How deep were you fishing the Ned rig when you caught the big bass on Lake George a few years ago?
I was fishing in 20 feet of water with the Ned rig.
20 feet. So what specific, was it just a ledge or a hump?
The grass, I think. It was during the fall, I think. Yeah, it was during the fall, and the grass was grown out that far. I think I was fishing the grass line in the 20 feet of water where the grass totally stopped. So I think ended up being a 21 incher out there.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. So when you throw the Ned rig, right, or you throw the Senko, are you kind of just like a slow drag kind of guy? Or are you one that likes to hop it, or are you
drag
one of the swimming it type Ned rig guys?
For the Ned rig, I hop it. For the Senko, I drag it. I don't like hopping the Senko.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's what you guys figured out up at Sandcrest, right? For the Crossroads Classic. Is that what you're doing? You're dragging Senko deep, right?
Offshore Senko. I think it was black. We were throwing a black Senko offshore, dragging it as slow as possible. I mean, you had a cast took 2 minutes, so you were dragging that thing really, really slow.
That's crazy. Yeah, because you guys were finding quality bites. Everyone was getting bit, but you guys were finding quality fish, and that's what helped lead you guys to a victory. So that was cool to see.
Yeah.
So what do you think your biggest weakness is? What's that one area that you need to improve upon?
Honestly, clear water fisheries is not my thing. I've always I need a little stain in the water to do, I think, better. Clear water fisheries are not my really thing. My grandparents lived on Morse for about 15 years, so I've always used to the Morse stain, and I've always fished Morse for a long time. So I like the darker water, and that's the clear water kind of always gets me a little bit.
It's all coming together. You fished moors, you like offshore. I'm starting to understand a little bit about Nick Matthews now.
So yep, I like Geist. That's by far I would say my home water, my favorite lake. I fish Geist a good amount.
Now, guys can be pretty clear at times.
Geist can be pretty clear, but the offshore bite on Geist, if you know how to fish it, is really, really good.
Yeah. So you're big on following those contours and those grass lines out there, huh?
Yes, the grass lines on Geist are phenomenal, especially in this spring. I think me and Aiden I'm gonna try to get Aiden to go with me next week, and we're gonna try to hit Geist.
So are you going to pay like the $40 to launch your kayak? Or are you going to take the free launch and paddle all the way out or pedal all the way out?
So the one at the marina that has a chain going across the ramp, we've kind of become friends with the guy that rides around in the golf cart. So he kind of just bats an eye and lets us go under the chain and launch our kayaks. So.
All right. I don't know if you should have said that on live or not. Now that I know, I might have to join you.
I haven't heard. My dad goes all the time, and he's never been said we don't have to pay. It's just at the marina, the one off of Fall Creek Road.
Yeah.
So.
No, I've heard that from others as well, that they're pretty good about letting kayaks go launch in there. Well, that's cool, man. That's cool. So what's the plans for Nick for the future? What are you looking to do in the sport of kayak bass fishing?
I really am chasing AOI this year for Hobie. I have 2 5ths, and then I have a 75th at Seminole that I need to get rid of. Seminole just wasn't. I found the big ones. I was too stubborn. I learned from that event. I told myself I need to practice harder next time. I didn't practice as hard as I should have, and I should have stayed out longer and practiced. And I obviously changed that for the next 2, where I got 5th. So I'm gonna hit Champlain and the rest at once Champlain, and then I'm gonna fish the rest. So La Crosse, Pickwick after that. So. I don't think I'm going to be able to fish the Susquehanna, but I'm going to fish Champlain, La Crosse, and Pickwick.
Have you been to either of those 3 fisheries?
La Crosse, I got 4th last year at the Hobie BOS, and I was sitting in 2nd going into day 2. So La Crosse it has smallmouth. I'm really good at fishing for smallmouth, and it's kind of got all my strengths. Grass and smallmouth is my cup of tea. So at that one, I for sure, hopefully, will do good on.
Gotcha. And then past that, I mean, do you see yourself doing the kayak fishing thing for a long time? Do you want to be a pro kayak angler? Like what's kind of your dreams and goals in the fishing realm?
I think maybe in the future I'll get a bass boat, probably 5 years down the road or so. But I just want to keep going. I want to fish the Hobie series. That's my favorite series, and I want to just continue fishing the Hobie series for the next few years. See if I can pull out a win and maybe even get AOI. So
awesome! That's a great goal to have, man. So you want to switch to the bass boat world, huh?
Yeah, maybe in a couple of years, eventually get a bass boat. See what I can do in the opens, Bassmaster Opens. So
very cool, very cool. I did the opposite. I started there. Kayak fishing wasn't really a thing when I was fishing, and then kind of transitioned into this. But that's awesome. I love seeing guys step up and go to the bass boat world. I have a passion and love for both, but I'm pretty stuck here in the kayak world. I love it. I love it too much to spend any time anywhere else.
You can't beat it. The people are just great people. Nobody's out there trying to kill each other over a bass. That's how it is.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's laid back, but it still has that competitiveness that really drives me. It's the best of both worlds for sure. So I want to backtrack for a second. You talked about practice and how you didn't practice enough for that Hobie Bass Open Series. What is your general way of practicing and breaking down a body of water for a tournament?
So my general way, so I always kind of just take into the time frames, pre-spawn, spawn, what I think the water. I always try to find out maybe beforehand, a couple weeks beforehand, what the water temperature is, so I can kind of maybe take a guess at the future weather, what I think it will be, and maybe what the fish are going to be staging up to do for Watts Bar. I knew I wanted to fish Bluff Walls. That's one of my favorite things to do, especially on Tennessee River Lake.
Okay.
So I mapped out Bluff Walls that I thought were going to be maybe have some fish, and I knew I only was going to have Friday to practice. I only had one day to practice, so I knew I had to figure them out that day. So I picked a place where there was coves and bluff walls, so I could go shallow if needed, if I couldn't find them on the bluff wall. So that's what I did, and they ended up being where I thought they were on the bluff walls, and that's how it came out with Broken Bow. It was a whole different story. I picked a place where I thought they would be, and they were not there. They were not there at all. But as I knew they would be there. I knew they were staging to spawn. I kind of figured that out through one day of practice, and then the second day, I saw these humps on my chart that I wanted to go fish. Well, on the way there, I found a hump in about 6 foot of water that wasn't on the chart at all. It said it was 20 feet of water still on the chart, so nobody would have even, no bass boat. I had a Humminbird Lake Master maps, so I knew I had I knew I had the right maps to know if it was there or not.
Sure.
So I have a graph that I have the Navionics charts and the Humminbird charts, and I can switch between both of those on my graph. So I do that throughout practice to make sure what they say are the same. So if I want to move over there or whatever, I do that. But I found that hump, and the smallmouth were spawning on top of it. I caught 2. I try not to wear them out. That's I learned real quickly when I started. I had one tournament where I wore them out on a Friday, and I learned real quick never to do that again because I wore them out too hard. So usually I'll catch 1 or 2. If they're 2 big ones, I'll leave it. If they're 2 smaller ones, maybe I'll keep fishing until I see if there's some more size. And as soon as I catch a bigger one, I'll just leave it. I don't care if it's 2 bites in or whatever. So,
yeah. And were you throwing a Ned rig or?
Yeah, a Ned rig Dragon. I actually drug it that time because the water temperature dropped. So usually when the water temperature drops, I'll slow down the Ned rig even more. So.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And when you're fishing Indiana, do you typically practice, or do you kind of just, go with it?
Depends on the body of water. For Wawasee, I got up and practiced because I hadn't been up there for a while, and I knew clear lakes weren't my strong suit, so I needed to at least have an extra day out there just to figure it out a little bit. But for most tournaments, I do not practice in Indiana. For the White River is like my favorite place to fish. Me and Aiden used to go a lot when we were in high school. We do it every weekend. It seemed like we'd do a stretch, and we learned about every stretch from Noblesville south. So it went from there. But I usually don't practice. But for Niona, I actually have been because I want to. That's the one Gerby AOY that I want to win this year. So,
okay.
I've kind of been trying to put my time towards that one. I was a little discouraged when I lost it last year, so I want to make sure that I hopefully get it this year. So
yeah, no, I know that feeling all too well. I did not get AOY at Monroe last year, and it still hurts. So I've got dead set on that. So I understand that feeling. I'm looking forward. I'm going to be up at the next Niona. I don't know after that if I'll fish them or not, but I'll definitely be at the next Niona. The Indy Nights, we're having a little team get together up there on our home lake that weekend. So while I'm up there, I'm going to fish Niona. If I do good, I might have to come and chase you for that AOI race. But you're off to a pretty good start there with that first place victory. But yeah, that'll be fun to see how that progresses this season. Last year's AOI didn't do so well in the first tournament. He got like 9th place, so he's going to have to step it up if he's gonna win AOI this season. So calling out George there.
Yeah, a little bit. He beat me last tournament. I would have, if he would have got behind me, I would have won. I was leading into the last day of the last tournament, and he fished Monday, and then he caught him and beat me on the last day. So it was neck and neck. So it was either he won the tournament or I won the tournament and won AOI, and he won the tournament and he won AOI. So this year, I don't want to make it like that. So
Troy says, keep your guard up on the White River series. He's going to be knocking on your door. Is that one you're gunning for this year as well?
I know Aiden is, and
okay,
and I am too. I'm kind of, that's one of my, I say Geist and White River are my home waters because I live 10 minutes from I live closer to the White than Geist. So I'll definitely be fishing every single White River Gerby this year. So that's one of my favorite fisheries. I'm better at smallmouth than largemouth. So
yeah, Troy thinks he's good at smallmouth, but I don't know. I don't think he's much competition for you. Just joking, Troy. Love you, buddy. Cool. I want to get on the White River, man. That's something that is not a strong suit for me at river fishing. In fact, I actually have a little bit of a fear of rivers. That's a story for another show. But I don't know. I've been on it a couple times. I'm familiar with the Broad Ripple stretch, but that was more like largemouth, like boat fishing up around in the ponds, up around the docks and stuff. I've never really been a smallmouth guy, and I want to go try and figure it out. But the whole floating thing and pairing up with someone and like that's always, it just seems like so much work.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few places that you can kind of put in and fish all day. I'd say like 116th Street's pretty good. And I that Noseville area is, I think, one of the best areas to fish. I'd say from Forest Park to 116th is really good, and even up in north. So.
Yeah. Well, I've never caught a big smallmouth. I think like my biggest was like 17 inches, and it was a whopping like pound fish. It was long and skinny. So my goal this year is to do that. I want to go to Lake Sinclair. I want to go to White River. And then, of course, with the Indiana Big Bass Hunt, I got to find a big smallmouth to be competitive in that anyway. So I'm definitely going to have to hit the White River up at some point. And that event's coming up next week, as well as Monroe for Grubby. So if you're watching and you're interested in fishing for some big smallmouth, that tournament should be lights out, I would think.
Yeah, it should be really good. If the water, it looked like it's supposed to rain a lot this weekend, but if it's coming down next week and maybe we have a rain, like a short rain on Friday to bring it back up just a little bit, it'll be really good.
Yeah, I've heard that rising water, not like super fast rising water, but like steadily rising water is good for that river bite. Falling water can be too.
I've always caught them better on rising. Falling has always kind of got me a little bit, but rising on the White seems to, it kind of gets up that silt a little bit and kind of makes sure they don't see you as much, because it's gotten really clear right now. I just went down there the other day, a couple days ago, and looked, because I drive over it on the way home every day, so I just went down and looked to see what it looked like.
So growing up the White River, the thing you always heard about was the stupid tube. Is that something that's in your arsenal, not only on the White River, but other places? Are you a stupid tube type of guy?
Yeah, I like fishing the tube. I feel like I'd say it's gotten too well known on the White. I feel like the fish have gotten a little used to it. They used to be really good. It used to kill it all the time. I'd say last tournament I tried it a good amount and it didn't work as much. But it, over the past few years, I feel like it's gotten a little bit less consistent bite on that and more consistent on the Ned rig. But I loved the bait. I've used it more on a grass or a clear water fishery. I feel like the tube's better on a clear grass fishery more than anything. So
I love fishing the tube. I lose a lot of fish on it though. Is that something that you see? You lose a lot of fish on it?
I feel like when I lose a lot of fish on it when I use the bait caster with it. I tend to use a spinning rod with it. I have a really heavy spinning rod that I use with it.
Okay.
So I feel I can get a better bend in the rod and it keeps them pinned a little bit more, even if I don't get the hook all the way in.
Sure. Sure. I'm curious, when we were talking about you throwing a Texas rig Cinco earlier, is there a particular weight that you tend to go towards? I know you fish it weightless sometimes, or do you fish Nico at all?
I do not fish Nico. I don't fish wacky. I've never fished wacky rigged Cinco.
Really?
I do not like wacky rigged. I think it gets hung up too much and
Sure.
it just causes me troubles. But the Texas rig, I never peg it.
Okay.
Ever, really. But unless I'm fishing really deep. But I never peg it, and I use a 16th ounce. So I really usually subtle weight always. So it's either the more subtle, the better. If I have to put an 1/8 ounce on, it's only because it's windier out.
Interesting. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Well, man, you've definitely improved over the years, and you've become a very consistent angler. For those watching, anyone that's watching that is getting into the sport or is trying to become a more consistent tournament angler, what's some advice that you would give to young anglers or any age really that are trying to get more consistent out there?
I would just say develop the baits that you have confidence in even more. I feel like once you gain that confidence in something, just try to apply it to all of your other baits. So if I have a lot of baits that I have confidence in now. I mean, I used to only have like one or two, and I'd always not want to throw anything else, but I have a good amount of baits that I'm confident that I know I can catch a fish in certain situations. I feel like it's more of a mental game than anything. This year, I've had the confidence going in to the tournaments, more confidence than any other year of any other season I've ever been in. So I feel like that's why I've been doing so good this year, is just because of the confidence wise aspect, mental game.
Yeah, people don't understand how much that mental side of it plays into this sport. It's huge. I mean, like you said, when you just feel good about the situations that you're in on the water and what you're presenting, you're just dialed in at another level. When you're just kind of like doing your thing, just casting and reeling, you're not zoned in. You're not paying attention to how you're retrieving that bait. You're rushing it. You're going too slow. You're fishing it too high in the water column. So that mental state is really important, like you said. And then you just make less mistakes out there on the water. That's one thing that I'm struggling with right now, is fishing a clean tournament all the way through. I'm not a morning person. I've talked about this a lot. I'm not a morning person. I have a rough time getting going in the morning, but I get really spun out easily when I make silly mistakes, like losing a fish early on. That's something that I did today. It's kind of been my MO all season, losing a big fish early on in the tournament. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you overcome those tough moments where you miss a fish or you make a couple bad casts and it's just not going right? Like, how do you deal with that?
I tend to even play music on my phone a little bit to kind of just get my headspace out of almost that loss or that fishing, get it out of the headspace for about 15 minutes to 30 minutes. I'll just play some music a little bit, even if I'm like, if it's, I would say almost a boring tournament where you're not catching as many fish, I'll play some music just to try to keep my head in the game and trying to I don't know, fish slow, or try to just watch my line or just watch the surrounding. I'll try to keep the music low though, so I can at least hear if something's hitting top water or something like that. But I always try to play music. That's one thing that just kind of gets me, I don't know, back down to earth if I lost a big fish or something like that.
All right. So Jason beat me to the question in the comments, but what's the playlist, man? So like you got to get calmed down, you got to get centered. What are you turning on?
I play a lot of country. That's just a lot of country.
Okay.
Jason Aldean or something like
Jason
that.
Aldean. So. All right. I like it. What's your favorite Jason Aldean song?
Night Train.
Night Train. All right. That's yeah, I know that song. That's not an old one though, right? That's a fairly newer one, isn't it?
I think it's a couple, three, 4 albums back.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. So what are you going to do about Aiden this year? Man, you going to let him get another AOY title?
I tell him every year that I'm going to beat him, but this year I haven't started off good. I think I'm going to have to miss the Cinewall to go to Champlain. So I know I won't say I know, but I have a feeling he might not do as well at Miss Cinewall because I know that's not his type of fishery. Okay. So I hope I'm not saying anything, but I hope he doesn't win that one. But I feel like the rest of them, I have a pretty good chance at. The White River, I'm gonna go up and fish the Kankakee a good amount. I'm sure me and him will, since he's done with school. I'm sure he'll be fishing a lot more since he's done with school. Yeah. But it just I've gotten second to him the last 3 of the 4. I think 3 out of the 4 past years for AOY. So I'm tired of getting second. So
sure.
I'd like him to win out of anybody else, but I'm tired of getting second to him.
Yeah, I talked to your dad today at the boat ramp, and he's got a similar feeling about you. He wants to really beat you.
Me and him, we talk a lot of trash. That's me and Aiden usually talk a lot of trash during the tournament. I mean, but me and my dad talk the most trash. He's always trying to beat me. He's only beat me once during a tournament in the last 5 years. So I'm trying to keep that streak going. I barely beat him on Summit last weekend. I mean, I caught a fish within the last 2 minutes. So, and then I tied him at Wawasee, as you saw. So he actually was ahead of me, and they rejudged one of his fish, and it dropped him down a 1/4 inch. So he thought he had beat me that day. They rejudged one of his fish, and then it dropped him back down to 60 or whatever he had. So, and then I ended up beating him.
This is great. I might like this rivalry more than I do the you and Aiden rivalry. That's a fun one to watch, but this one between you and your dad, I'm just now learning about. And I'm definitely going to be paying attention to this over the course of the next few tournaments. It's going to be fun to watch that. So
yeah, he's taught me a lot, but I feel like he didn't fish as much last year, but this year he's definitely gone all in. He's actually done really consistent this year, and and a lot better than any past years. So I'm definitely a little bit more nervous on him trying to beat me. So.
Well, he had a good day today as well. It just didn't find the size. We fished in a very similar area. I could see him most of the day, and he was catching him, I was catching him, but just not the right size was the thing. So, but that's cool. It's good to see you guys out there, just like Jackson and his dad out there on the water. Now, does Jackson get in on that trash talking with you and Aiden?
Jackson usually does not trash talk. Actually,
I don't see him trash talking much.
But I would say me and Aiden don't trash talk that much, but we definitely try to beat each other every tournament. Sure. Sometimes we have a side bet, but it's usually every tournament we try to beat each other. So.
Well, I've not got to compete too much in the IK stuff, and a little bit more this year, but definitely, I mean, I think anyone that goes out on the water is thinking about you too, and is trying to beat you too. You guys are consistently up there at the top, and you make it fun for everyone. Um, and seeing you going on the national side of things and doing really well has been awesome. I'm going to be rooting for you this season as you battle for that AOY title. That's going to be awesome to see. I'm looking forward to fishing against you in several series. You're going to be in Monroe next week?
I will not be at Monroe, but I'll be at White River. So
Got to be White River. Okay. I know your work kind of limits you a little bit on how much you can fish.
Yeah.
So,
or at least this week, but the rest, it should be for a couple months. I should be good after this.
Okay. So, going to be good to go and getting out there and crushing it, huh? So, watch out, everyone. Nick's about to be unleashed. And Aiden, too. I can't even imagine what Aiden's going to do now that he doesn't have college holding him back.
I think he's only fished like 4 times this year or 5 times this year. So, I mean, he's definitely going to be fishing a lot more. He's ready to get – I don't think he's fishing that Hobie enough to really get situated with just fishing tournaments out of it. So, I think he's definitely excited and ready to go. So,
awesome. Well, we're going to be talking to him next week. I'm excited to have him on and hear a little bit more about his story and how he tackles the water. I know you guys have similar fishing styles, but definitely some differences too, I'm sure. Yeah. So I appreciate you coming on, man. Any sponsors or anyone you want to give a shout out to? Say thank you to?
Sam and Krista at Sun Valley Sports. They're great people. They'll help you out with anything you ever need with Hobie. I mean, and I know they have just got Hoodoo kayaks. I don't think they're in yet, but they're about to have them in, and they're going to be great kayaks, and definitely go check them out. I think they're a little bit better priced than the Hobies.
A little more cost effective, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So Sam and Krista are definitely great people, and they'll help you out with anything you ever need.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about those folks there at Sun Valley. So if you're in the market for a Hobie, definitely check them out. Nick, you don't do a whole lot on social. You're not much of a social media guy, are you?
No, I always try to be. Every year I always start off and I always try to start doing it, but I actually just bought a GoPro. So I think I'm going to start recording my fishing. And I mean, there might be some definitely awesome experiences. I know at Broken Bow, that would have been I blew a tire on Broken Bow, like going to the boat ramp or going home from the boat ramp. So it definitely would have been cool, like seeing all the experiences that I go through on the way out to the Hobie tournaments and
yeah, man, I would definitely watch. I want to see how you fish a Senko and take 5 minutes per cast, but still catch big fish and win tournaments. I want to see that. So that blows my mind. I cannot stand fishing that slow. I can fish all day on one offshore spot, but I cannot sit there and just.
Yeah, it's slow as possible, and it just gets it done.
Yeah, that's great. I need to try that a little more because, I mean, apparently that and the Ned rig are the thing to do. Hey, Niona, I caught the biggest fish I've ever caught on a Ned rig. I caught a 19-incher big bass for the tournament because of all the things, the crazy stuff that happened. On a Ned rig, blew my mind. I caught a bunch of fish on a Ned rig that day. As well as other things, but I'd never throw the Ned rig, and I pulled it out that day and had a good time with it. So,
did you throw a weedless that day?
No.
Really? That's surprising. All right. Well, I threw a fluke really shallow that day, so I actually went shallow. I didn't even.
Yeah. So I junk fished, man. I threw a weightless worm, a buzz bait, a spinner bait, a swim bait. I lost a big one on a spinner bait. Super bummed about that. Again, continue first 10 minutes of the tournament. That's been the theme for me all season long. I get a good big bite early on in the morning and lose it. But yeah, I junk fished the heck out of that lake, and I had the Ned rig tied on, and I pulled it out of the rod tube, and I was going to cut it off and put on what was I going to put on? I think a Nico rig or something. And I was like, yeah, I'll fire out a cast with it, and I caught a fish. Fired out another cast, caught a fish, and so I just stuck with it for a while. But
that's sweet.
Yeah, it was fun. So, all right, well. Time to wrap up this episode. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you so much, and it's been fun watching you grow in this sport and compete against you, and I look forward to continuing to do that. Any final words before we go?
Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely.
I really haven't been on many podcasts, so it's nice to get my name out there a little bit. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Hey, if you would actually post some things on social media, you might get your name out there a little bit more. Like, do you even have a Facebook? Like, I wonder sometimes,
I wonder the same thing. So it doesn't mean I'm not on it.
You are the only 22-year-old guy who fishes as much as you do, and I can't even find a picture of you holding a fish.
I like to stick to the fishing game. I don't like being on. I don't like doing all that. So.
No, I actually respect it, man. I'm giving you a hard time, but I actually respect it. Social media is a maddening thing, and it's cool to actually see someone your age who is focused on other things and not so much on social media. So I actually commend you for it. But if you could, please take a few more selfies with a fish, so I have something to post of you. I often have to IKA and take photos from like 2018 of you. So,
yeah.
All right, man. Right. Get out there, crush it this year. Qualify for the HKB State Championship so I can take pictures of you. And I look forward to seeing you on the water, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, Nick. Have a good one, man.
All right. See you.
There it is, the hammer. That is Nick Matthews. I mean, gosh, I knew he was a finesse guy, and I knew he loved throwing the Cinco, but I didn't know he threw it the way he does. So that's really cool to hear and see that from him. In Indiana, it's always so tough. The finesse game is definitely a way to be consistent, and Jackson and Aiden and Nick have figured that out. A couple other guys, young guns, are figuring that out as well. Brendan McDougall is a big wacky rig fisherman. He just drags that wacky rig all over the lake catching fish. And Jack's an upcoming. He's the youngest of the young gun crew that I have kind of dubbed, and he's got it figured out too. We're going to talk to those guys in the coming weeks in part 2 and 3. I haven't even told Jack and Brennan they're coming on. So if you're watching, here's your heads up. You're coming on for part 3. But we will have Aiden on next week. That should be a really great episode. I mean, how could you not want to pick the brain of the guy who's won AOY and tournament after tournament for the Indiana Kayak Series, the longest running series here in the state of Indiana? How could you not want to pick the brain of that kid right there? So young man really now, I guess not so much kids anymore. Thanks for watching, guys. Please do me a favor. If you didn't before, when you jump off here, give this a share. Of course, like, comment if you haven't. Let us know what you guys think about HKB podcast, what you guys would like to see in future episodes. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And, of course, check out HoosierKayakBassin.com to find out everything there is to know going on in the sport of kayak bass fishing here in the Hoosier State. Get signed up for that Cash Hicks Grubby charity event. Runs through the end of the month. You can sign up at any point. All proceeds go to help out Cash Hicks and his family as he battles cancer for the second time in his young life. Send up some prayers. Send some thoughts out his way. And don't forget, it's mayhem for KBF. So get signed up for those weekend events, those nocturnal events, and get those entries much easier. 50% of the field is going to qualify for their respective championships. A lot of events coming up. like we said, Monroe next week, White River next week. Monroe's a doubleheader. Don't forget that Trail Series and the regular Grubby Monroe Series. Lots of fun stuff happening here in the state of Maine. It's crazy. We're already into May. AOY races already starting to shape up and form. It's going to be a fun season. That's it, guys. Appreciate you watching. Thanks. We'll see you next week with Aiden Darlington, same time, same day, Thursday at 8:30. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you soon.